Nvidia has a new upcoming GPU now that the 4070 is behind us, and we saw that the reception was really lukewarm at best. Massive amounts of stock everywhere. $599 is definitely something that gamers said no to, but there's another GPU that's coming, one that traditionally has been really important as well. It's one that a lot of gamers typically will buy. This is going to be probably one of the most disappointing GPU releases because Nvidia kind of put themselves in a corner. They have to price these GPUs a certain way, and it seems like even though they didn't have to limit the GPUs as much as they have, they're certainly doing so. The GPU that I'm talking about is the RTX 4060 Ti, and I think you might want to watch until the end of the video because you're going to agree with me that it's going to be pretty much dead on arrival. Now, the 4070 has a lot of benefits. It's not completely a throwaway bad product. In fact, I think it is overall a pretty good GPU. The problem here is the pricing and some of the limitations that Nvidia has done to the 4070. For example, the 192-bit memory bus carries over from the 4070 Ti. Really not that great on the 1440p GPU nowadays, especially if they're charging you $600 for it. That used to be high-end pricing, but now apparently it's simply just mid-range pricing where it's meant simply for 1440p. If you think that was really not too good, imagine what they're going to do with the 4060 Ti. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor. Today's video sponsor is Java.gg. This is a fantastic marketplace that's very focused on gamers. You're going to find plenty of new and used hardware. You can even sell directly to Java. That way you can offset the cost of whatever new GPU you want to buy. I've even listed a GPU on Java myself, and I found it a really nice, safe marketplace. Java also has a pretty expansive community, such as on Discord, the weekly build emails. It's really, truly a nicely curated gaming community where you can buy, sell, and learn about PC building. And remember to use code WELCOME10 for a nice discount off of your first order. And now let's go back to the video. The first major cause for concern for the 4060 Ti is going to be once again in the VRAM. 8 gigabytes of VRAM, but the story doesn't end there. It's going to have a 128-bit memory bus. Actually, before making this video, it kind of dawned on me. During the era of the RTX 3000, most of them had some pretty decent VRAM specs. Maybe not the size. For example, the 3080 only had 10. People complained about that. 3080 Ti only had 12 gigabytes, and eventually the 3080 was upgraded to 12. Okay, that's fine. You know, one thing it did have was really good memory bandwidth. That's why they were so good at cryptocurrency mining. The 3080 Ti, 3090, even the 3070, they all had some pretty good memory bandwidth. They weren't limited like the new RTX 4000 GPUs. So I wonder if Nvidia saw that the crypto market no longer really is buying the same amount in terms of RTX 4000 GPUs. Maybe they figured it was safe to limit the VRAM and gamers wouldn't really notice, but it ends up that VRAM is also important for all the stuff that Nvidia is pushing, like ray tracing, you know, even with DLSS and the new technologies. And of course, all these games having really high textures. Look at all the recent game releases. They pretty much made 8 gigabytes of VRAM, like found on the previously high-end 3070 Ti, more or less obsolete. 8 gigabytes of VRAM in 2023 is not something that you want on your GPU, especially not a GPU that may cost upwards of $499. We're not sure yet what the price of the 4060 Ti will be. If it's anything like the 4070, they may price it just $100 less. Now, Nvidia did see that people are not buying the 4070. I mean, they have to see, you know, the retailers not selling them. They're even pulling back on 40 series, you know, production, it seems, from some rumors. So they may choose to actually price the 4060 Ti at $449. Would that be a better price? Absolutely not. 8 gigabytes of VRAM makes it dead on arrival. I don't care what the price is. They would literally have to price this way under $400 for it to make any sense. The minimum, I would say, price it like last generation's $399 3060 Ti, and then maybe we can consider it and it could have some, you know, decent uplift for some gamers. It will have DLSS 3, and I'm sure it's going to be really, really efficient as well, being able to fit in small all cases. So certainly it's going to have benefits, but anything over $400, gamers are not going to want. I don't care if it's $450. Nobody should be paying that in 2023 for an 8 gigabyte of VRAM GPU. The 4060 Ti would squarely still be a 1440p GPU, much like the 4070 is. If you want to start calling it a 1080p GPU where 8 gigabytes of VRAM is still okay in many cases, you're going to have to price it accordingly. It's going to have to be priced well under $400, maybe even $350. Gamers are not going to be happy. Obviously, Nvidia is not going to price it under, $350. The best we could possibly wish for would be $399, which is almost impossible because they've been raising prices, and it would create a huge gap between that and the 4070. Look at the gap that they created between the 4070 and 4070 Ti. That's a $200 gap, and sure, the 4070 Ti is 15 to 20% faster on average, but it's still limited with its VRAM. You really have to step up to the twice as much more expensive 4080 to get anything that's a really, really heavy hitter in a decent GPU for 1440p and 4K. I would say Nvidia would have to price it at a maximum of like $450. That's not even something that gamers would really want to buy because it's still an 8 gigabyte GPU, but at least then it's sort of cheaper than the 4070 by $150. For people that want 8 gigabytes of VRAM and don't mind not having more, they're going to limit their future proofing in 1440p, but at least they're going to get DLSS 3 and probably really good power efficiency. That's the only number that I can see being reasonable. $499 is going to be too expensive for an 8 gigabyte GPU. I don't care if it's $100 cheaper than the 4070. In that case, it's much better to just buy a 4070. At least you're getting 12 gigabytes of VRAM and you're going to be a little bit safer in 1440p. I think Nvidia knows from seeing the huge amount of stock of 4070s in stock right now. The only one that seems to have sold out is the Founders Edition, but that one is more limited and it's more of like a collector's thing, so you can't really go by the Founders Edition. Every other GPU is in stock every single place you look. Newegg, Micro Center, online, anywhere that people would buy GPUs. That means that the 4060 Ti is going to have a pretty bad fate at $499. $450, still not going to be very popular, but I don't think Nvidia can go to $399 and match their 3060 Ti. That's going to be too much of a discount from their end. And listen, they're selling millions and millions of dollars of GPUs to AI right now, to various companies, to Microsoft, to anybody opening up an AI company. Right now it's booming. They can't make enough of these GPUs to sell. So they're making millions of dollars over there in that sector. Do you think they really care if people don't buy a 4060 Ti for like $50 difference? I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference to them. They're slowly transitioning into a much bigger and different company that, while PC gaming was always important, I'm not too sure if AI really takes off for the next 5 to 10 years. It's possible Nvidia may just still produce some graphics cards because they are the leaders, but they're going to set them at whatever price they want with whatever limitations that they want, and they're going to say nobody in the market is here to do better. You either buy it or leave it on the shelves. They don't care. They're making millions of dollars and billions of dollars from AI and different, workstation level GPUs and things like that. So it's not going to make that big of a difference to them. And it's going to be up to the other companies like AMD and Intel to put some pressure in that sector. And as of right now, nothing's really happening. I mean, AMD hasn't released any competitor beneath the 7900 XT. So they only have every other old last generation GPU to put up as sort of a sparring partner with the new 4070 and 4060 Ti. And Intel, who knows what's going to happen with that? I mean, ARC sometimes is promising. Sometimes you don't know how far into the future they're going to really invest into it. So as of right now, Nvidia in that range in terms of new GPUs are the only game in town, and they have the DLSS 3 to push. They have more power efficiency. So that's the point where the GPU sort of mid-range is at right now. Things seemed so much simpler with the 4090, didn't they? Because the 4090 was twice as good as the 3090, and the price was something that gamers were willing to pay because that's the best of the best. That's, one type of gamer that had the budget for that. Not everybody wants to spend 4090 money on their gaming PC, and under the 4090, your choices are still extremely expensive. They start to quickly get more limited, like the 4080 and 4070 Ti. You have the 7900X TX as an option if you want to go to AMD. But as you start going down the product stack, you either use a last generation GPU or you deal with these GPUs that Nvidia is bringing out, like the 4070 and 4060 Ti, with a lot limited hardware for still really high prices. So much more complicated than the high end. Usually it's the other way around, but now it seems like that middle of the market is a really tricky spot for gamers. And that's really unfortunate because this segment of the market, that's going to be millions of gamers. So that's the segment that really deserves a high quality, well performing and well priced GPU, because that's going to dictate the direction of PC gaming in the future, because PC gaming can't live just off of 4090s and the highest end specs, or else it's going to become a much smaller and less enjoyable hobby for millions of people. All right, guys, so let me know what you think down below. Are you disappointed in the potential 4060 Ti? 8GB of VRAM is certainly disappointing. It'd be nice if they change it up to 12 or they make something different with the VRAM configuration, because I think that's going to turn a lot of people off, especially for what it probably is going to be a fairly expensive price. We'll keep updated. Remember to stay subscribed. I'll update you guys as we learn more. So I'll see you guys on the next video. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor. And now let's go back to the video.